This is absolutely sickening, as more reports have come out surrounding Freddy Peralta and the plan going forward for his offseason, with multiple trade reports swirling. A brand new report has broken down a location for him. We're going to be touching on that, as well as another very interesting option for this Milwaukee Brewers team, with more veteran leadership needed after a few moves seem to be on the horizon. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. Before we do jump into it though, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure that you hit the sub button if you haven't already. Join the channel. We're getting all of your Milwaukee Brewers news every single day. We also know that just over 70% of you guys watching right now have not already done so. Like I said, be sure to hit the sub button if you want to stay up to date with every single bit of your Milwaukee Brewers news. But we need to jump straight into this, because heading into today, more reports have come out surrounding the plan for Freddy Peralta. Every team just about in the MLB has put their notice in that they will have an interest in a report that the trades are coming, and they're listening to what they're looking for Freddy Peralta. And this one, I think, is something that nobody on the Milwaukee Brewers, surrounding the Milwaukee Brewers, a fan of the Milwaukee Brewers, wants to hear, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers are in on Freddy Peralta. And this report comes out here from Christopher Klein, saying Roki Sasaki is throwing gas as a closer for now, but almost certainly as the starter come 2026. The offense won't go anywhere, so as long as Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Mookie Betts are in the lineup. But the Dodgers have the #1 farm system in the MLB, an endless spending power and insatiable desire to dominate the MLB. You can bet your bottom dollar they will call about Peralta. Now, this, of course, was something I think everybody expected, and I mean, heading into this offseason, any superstar that's on any MLB team, you know the Dodgers are going to be somewhat interested, which, of course, does suck for us, knowing that the dollar amount they are willing to spend compared to our Brewers team is, not comparable. But Freddy Peralta right now, surrounding all of these trade reports, it is getting more and more interesting by the day. Even though we are still only a few days away from the World Series, the season is not even over yet. Teams have already shown their interest, and the Dodgers still being in the World Series, showing already that things are going to be looking in that direction for them. It is interesting, and we need to talk about it, because, going into it, looking at what we have, and looking at mainly what the Dodgers have to offer, because they have the biggest offer. There's no doubt about that. They can offer whatever they want. Their top prospect system in the pipeline is still very, very good, and regardless of what the situation is, especially from the Dodgers, the Brewers need to go out and ask for a lot. And they want to make sure they're getting a lot for a guy like Freddy Peralta, who, at the end of the day, it would be uncertain whether or not the Brewers would be willing to give him the money that he would like in free agency come next season. After, well, not this year, club option this year. Next offseason is when his deal would expire. So if the Brewers are not confident in being able to re-sign or reacquire Freddy Peralta, you almost have to trade him to get some sort of value. And I think Freddy Peralta, according to what we heard at the end of the season, at the end of the game that they most recently played as well in the postseason, his reaction to that was he kind of knew what was coming. So looking at how the Dodgers really have and what they can pay and afford to give to the Brewers need to take advantage of that. And not just from the Brewers, but any other team. And Christopher Klein did come in and continue on by saying the Brewers is probably resistant to the idea of trading Peralta to the team that just eliminated from the NLCS, but the Dodgers could probably make them the best offer. It's also better than keeping him in the division, at the very least. Los Angeles might not be an empty clip, since its rotation is already so solid, which could favor the New Yorks or Bostons of the world. But pitching was a huge issue in the regular season. Health is not a guarantee with this group. So there are a bunch of options here. And as you see, the Yankees, I guess that continues the Mets as well, but the Red Sox too. A lot of these big name teams will certainly be in on Freddy Peralta, and that meaning the Brewers will have to go out here and really create a bidding war if they're looking for it. Continuing on with it as well, we kind of get an idea of what the Dodgers are willing to spend on a top quality starter. So keep this in mind when it comes down to what we're looking at for this, this team with Freddy Peralta, not just the Dodgers, but across the MLB as well. In a trade with the Washington Nationals, the Dodgers would receive left-handed starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore and right-handed reliever Kyle Finnegan. The Dodgers would have to give up top prospects including Dalton Rushing, outfielder Zaire Hope, and left-handed pitcher Jackson Ferris. So two names already. Zaire Hope, who you just saw on that top pipeline list, as well as Dalton Rushing, their top prospect, who was in the organization for a while now and, of course, is in the MLB. That would be a major win. Of course, having Dalton Rushing, a catcher, first baseman, it solves the issue of a first baseman regardless of what happens with Andrew Vaughn. Jake Bauer would be, a significant jump in prospect kind of tier. But going into this as well, this kind of indicates what the level would be. Freddy Peralta is significantly better than Mackenzie Gore, and I mean, having to do business with the Dodgers, you would want to get the best value, and the Dodgers would be the team that really can do it, having the number one pipeline, having arguably the best team in the MLB with player list, and I feel like it's not even something that you can really argue at this point. So at this rate, kind of this juncture right now, it does seem like the Brewers have a major opportunity, even though the Dodgers being that number one team is absolutely sickening, and I hate to say it, but as you kind of look at Freddy Peralta, I mean, his percentiles across the MLB have been some of the best regarding pitching we've seen in a long time. And as the young age he is, as young as he is, as good as he is, and at 29 years old, he has a lot of time left. A very big contract going to be coming. We know that, and especially the way that we've seen his stats and everything develop over the next little while, it's going to be something I think we need to look at more and more as the offseason goes on. So let me know what you think about Freddy Peralta as a Dodger option. I know I personally do not want to trade him to the Dodgers. However, if something along the lines of this does come down where you're in a team mixed with the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers seemingly would be given the best offer here, knowing that they would have to play a lot of these guys, and they also have the more assets they can give up. I'm curious to see what you guys think about that at the end of the day when it comes down to really not just yes or no, but the assets you would get in return, as it is very early still, but a Freddy Peralta trade seems very, very close. So let me know what you think about that. But as you probably just saw as well, there is more pitching need for this Brewers team. And coming into this, there are a lot of options regarding some veteran leadership. Freddy Peralta right now being the oldest, which looks like they would be in here next year, with the odds of Jose Quintana and Brandon Woodruff returning being slim to none. But going into it as well and taking a look at this, Scherzer is an option that has been linked to the Milwaukee Brewers. At 42 years old next season, he's well past his prime, but is still capable of pitching in big games. We saw that with the Blue Jays a couple of games ago in the ALCS. They don't typically spend a lot in free agency. Small market team, all of that, everything that we've seen in the past. But Scherzer would be an interesting option due to him not wanting to really break the bank, looking for another win, and be interesting to see what happens this year with the Blue Jays, whether they win or not, regarding whether he would retire or not, and if he'd be willing to not just extend, but go and explore some more teams that are very, very close. Now, there's a lot of kind of ideas behind this. I think Scherzer would be an interesting option. However, not the most likely, in my opinion. A few reasons as to why. I think that Scherzer's looking for a team right now that is World Series or nothing. He's known, he's known to say, and what he said before signing with the Blue Jays this year, that he wanted a team that was going to win. He believed in the Blue Jays. I don't know if the Brewers were an option at that point. I am not really sure if they were in on him. Not too many reports from there, but at this point right now, after showing what we did in the regular season, I think there's some interest that Scherzer would have in a team like the Brewers, who are still super young. They're not necessarily known to break the bank, which may be something that kind of may deter him from signing here, with not being able to get some of these players that would be able to solo win you a World Series. So having Scherzer an option, I think, is a good pathway to show people what the Brewers are looking for to add and continue adding. And I mean, you look at Scherzer's savant. His stats this year definitely were not great in the ERA category, but when it matters, he came down to it in the NLCS, his one appearance there, starting that game. And we know Mad Max, the postseason Mad Max, is a different breed. So going into that, I think looking at how his game would matter for the Brewers, it makes some sense. But whether or not Scherzer would be interested in the Brewers at this point, I think is something that would be very tough to determine. I would lean more towards no. But the style that Scherzer brings is certainly something that the Brewers would have to have some interest in when you're looking at Freddy Peralta potentially being traded elsewhere. And really, your most seasoned pitcher on the rotation, it'd be hard to kind of guess who it would be. At this point right now, it wouldn't be Miz necessarily, but could be a guy, like Chad Patrick or someone along the lines of that would really be your veteran starter. So let me know what you think about that here in the comments below. But that's all I got here in this video. Let me know what you think about these ideas that we're talking about here in this video. Of course, Freddy Peralta being traded to the Dodgers. Absolutely sickening to think of it this way right now. But when it comes down to the market, how things are working, the trade value that he has, it may be a very interesting option, as well as Scherzer or a pitcher among kind of the reins of Scherzer, who has that veteran kind of game-by-game, season-by-season at this point, looking to win as well. So let me know what you think about that. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.